Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Art 192, Photoshop / digital imaging for the fall semester of 2021. Today, I want to focus on lesson 9, which involves more advanced compositing techniques. I'll break this up into 2 sessions. Before I do, though, I wanted to show you, before I actually work on the lesson, here's the finished version to the left, and here's the start to the right. I'm going to work on the monster today. And then you'll see the little scared folks in the background. We'll work on that on Wednesday. And they also added another headstone, tombstone to the back. So with different effects. I think the most important part is the monster. It's not a bad layout for a movie poster. It's similar to what you guys are working on right now. But I did want to show you that I did work on mine a little bit. You can see I was able to extend the sky in the background, add simple lead characters, namely myself and my wife, and with a subtitle here, From LA to Morro Bay. And here's the title. Notice how I have I've used 2 separate typefaces, but joined them together. And by using 2 separate typefaces, it helps for the readability. I also added an italic for the second one, moving forward, kind of gives that forward feel to it, so that it reads as a single unit. I could add a drop shadow. I could give it dimensions so that it's it looks 3-dimensional. I think that that's all it needs for this particular solution. And you'll notice that from last Wednesday, I left the credits here. Now, where I was having issues with this, let me go ahead and show you how I was able to fix it right after we ended the last session. So if I go ahead and I come down here and I turn on, let me go ahead and turn this one off, this guy off. There we go. Come on, come on. There we go. This is where we left off last week. I didn't have a title, but I had the background, and it was a horizontal image that I was using. And I needed to stretch the sky forward. And if you recall, there is a feature that when you have that selected, if I were to go back here, let's turn this off. And I can turn that back on, and you can see that I have, it crops it to the end of the image when I added that other background image. And where that can be found is under the edit menu, and it's called sky replacement. And when you click on that, you can click in here. And this is the one that I chose. It was a nice vertical image, but you can see from here that there's if you were to check it out on your own, there's a whole bunch of them that you can look at. Now, see how that covered and cropped part of my image? I don't want that. So if you look at what it does, it actually creates a layer mask. But look at all the other different kind of skies that it has available. Okay. So there's tons of them. Sunsets, generic kind of gradient, background, that sort of thing. Well, I'm going to cancel that. But if I come back and if you look at this is what was happening last Wednesday, you can see that in the layer mask component of this, it cuts off part of the top. So what I can do is I can get rid of that part of the masking and allow the rest of the background to show through. So if I go ahead and I make sure that I select the mask component of this, okay, and I click and I drag to highlight all of this like so. And what I can do is I can fill with white. So I'm going to reverse the foreground and background colors. And if I hit Option Delete, it fills it with white. And it allows the rest of that background that I had chosen to come through. So now I've adapted a horizontal image to work with a vertical format. This is kind of the bare bones minimum. My story for my movie poster, and this is a story that you should be developing, is that by the end of this academic year, I will be retiring. My wife and I will be making our home in Morro Bay. So we're going to be moving from LA to Morro Bay. It's kind of a forward look to us. And this happens to be a visit that we made to Morro Bay. This happens to be actually Los Osos, which is nearby, an image that I took. And it tells a little bit of story about ourselves. So that's what you should be thinking about with regard to your own movie poster. Okay. So this, while simple, it helps me tell the story about my life and my future. And you should be doing the same. It doesn't have to have, as I said, the movie poster that's about you doesn't have to have an image of you. It doesn't have to have an image of your family. But it's all about telling stories. That's what movie posters do. Okay. So what's the story about your life that you want to convey? Okay, so let's get back to today's lesson. And you can see here, we have the end and we have our start file. Now, if I click on the start file, you can see that we have the text and we have the background image. So they have the background image. In fact, they have created a composite layer, so I cannot move these elements down here. And if you're wondering where the monster is, then that's the next step that we need to do. And to do the next step, to do it efficiently, that is, you need to have under the edit menu, you need to go, under the file menu, you need to browse in Bridge. And you need to have access to Bridge. There's a really neat feature in Bridge that I want to show you that I think is probably one of the most important aspects of this particular lesson. You can see that I've selected, if I go back, let me go back one here. Monster makeup. Let me go back inside lesson 9. And you can see they have inside lesson 9, they have a folder named monster makeup. So if I go inside the folder monster makeup, I have all of these separate files. I have the image of the guy that we're going to apply the mask to. And you can see all the elements of the mask. We can see the monster's forehead. We can see the little screws on the side. We see some side pieces and his hair and his face and on and on and on. Well, in order to build the image of him as a monster, we need to make sure that we have all of these in one file on separate layers. And when you open up a Bridge, there is a feature in here that enables you to do that. And I just really like it. It's something that I probably don't use enough of, and I should use it more. It is really, really excellent. So I'm looking at this in film strip mode. I don't know if that's how you guys have yours. But if you look at it as essentials, that's how it looks. If you look at it in libraries, that's how it looks. If I look at it in film strip, then as I click on each one of these separate elements, it shows up as a preview without having to open it. Maybe on another day, we can talk about Bridge a little bit more, because it is used with all Adobe products and enables you to rename files, to organize files, to sort files and that sort of thing in whatever hierarchy you want to choose. Now, when I hold down the Shift key and I select the last one, you'll notice that all 8 images are selected. And I want to be able to open them up and one file with each one on its own layer. So to do that, at the very top here, you go to Tools. And under Photoshop, it has a feature where it says, I'm going to go to Photoshop. What I want to do, it's down here. I want to load files into Photoshop layers. So when I do that, it's going to take all of those files that I have selected. And when I release it, it will automatically open up a brand new file. And it will open up all of those into a single file on separate layers. It's really quite extraordinary. It really does a nice job. So there we go. We have him. There we go. Do we have them all now? I hope. And now the next step will be to, I'm going to go ahead and go back to just tabs so we can focus on him today. Because as I said, that's all I wanted to really cover. So I'm going to go to Window and I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm just going to go back to consolidate all into tabs. So we just look at him. So what I want to do is I want to take the image of him and I want to put him at the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to use the Move tool and I'm going to move it down. And now I need to decide for the others exactly what I need, and I can turn them off as I need them, and I can reassign them. So what I want to start with, let's see if they're in the proper order. Yeah, they really pretty much are already in the correct order. So I'm going to leave them alone. If I need to move them up or down, then I'll do that as, you know, when it requires that I do so. So actually, you know, his monster hair should be at the top. So I'm going to move that to the top. And then the bolts could be at the very top. So that might be better than the hair, then the forehead. We have an earpiece. We have his neck. We have the nose. We have the green skin, and then him. So I'm going to turn them all off except for just the two that I need at the moment. Boom. I don't need the rest of them. I just need this one. And I want to move it into position because I'm going to start with that and then begin layering them. So in order to make this work, and it's nice that I have this mask a little bit, no, it's way too large, in fact, but now I can shrink it down. And to line it up with the fellow underneath, I need to make sure that the eyes, nose, and the mouth match. So to do so, I'm going to go ahead and I center it up. And if you remember, if I hit Command T, okay, that allows me to resize it. And then if I want to resize it from the middle inward, I hold down the Shift and the Option key. And I drag it down like so. I move it in place. You can see that it's a little bit too big, and just kind of center it up. Maybe a little bit smaller. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. And then before we do anything else, I'm going to massage the pixels around his eyes to get it to fit even a little bit better. Okay, so notice how I'm adjusting it. So his eyes are the most important, then his nose, and then his mouth fit. And it's all centered up. I'm good to go. So now I can check that off. And we're going to leave the final version in layers, but I'm also going to create an additional layer where they're all collapsed. So that will be the version that I bring over to our final product that we're working on. So you'll notice that there's a little bit of his skin showing through around his eyes. Well, I want to tighten that up a little bit. So to do so, and this is a destructive tool, I want to go to Filter. And what I want to do is I want to go to Liquify. Right? And that takes me into that. kind of a submenu here. I want to make sure that I do see him behind it so that I can zoom in here. Let me go ahead and select the zoom tool so I can see this a little bit better. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the rest alone, but just focus on the eyes here. There's this top tool right here that says it's a warp tool. That's what I'm going to use. Now, using the left or the right bracket key, I can increase or decrease the size of the brush just a little bit. And when I click and I drag here, you can see that it allows me to stretch it in just ever so slightly. So I'm going around, and it's so small and so subtle, but kind of important. It allows me to really tweak this so that just his eyes show through and not the eyelid itself. And I'll do the same with the other side. And hopefully I get it. And if I don't, then you just undo it and do it again. So that's what I'm doing. It's very subtle. Just moving it in, clicking and dragging, and trying to cover up the man's skin underneath and just allowing the mask to cover it and make sure that it's just his eyes that are visible underneath. So we'll see how well that I've done this. I want to be ready in just a second here. Okay, I think that ought to do it. I'm going to click OK. Let's see what I have when I'm done. And you can see that I tightened it up just a little bit, so you just see his eyes through there. Nothing else. And he looks a little bit, instead of wide-eyed, he seems a little bit meaner and a little bit more scary. So I'm one step closer to combining all the elements. And if I want to lock them, I can, so they don't accidentally move them. But I'm going to go ahead and turn on the next one. And you can see that I have his neck. That would be a good one to focus on. But whoop, I don't want that. Let's see. Oh, his nose, that was it. So let's go ahead and zoom out and see his nose. There we go. His nose is up here. So I'm going to move it down and repeat pretty much what I had done before. You try to get it, ballpark where it needs to be, then hit Command T for transform, and then Shift Option to shrink it down from the middle and try to get it into position. Try to get it to match the underlying wrinkles. Make sure that, it all kind of lines up, and that looks pretty good. If you need to nudge it a little bit, use your arrow keys just a little. Okay, I'm satisfied with that. I hit the return key, and we're just going to take it one at a time. I'll turn on the next one. And this is the one with his neck. So the neck and his nose are sort of interchangeable. As long as they overlap the rest, then we're good to go. So I'll get it in position, hit Command T, shrink it down, Shift Option, like so, move it into position. I guess it can be a little bit bigger. And if you need to distort it a little bit, it's actually okay. This is one of the rare instances that if I need to distort this to make it fit him, I can do that. And it works really kind of nice. It actually works a little bit better. So let's pull this up just a little bit and zoom in a little so I can see a little bit better. There we go. Stretch this over just a little bit. Maybe pull this over just a little bit. Just kind of futz with it, just a tad. Okay, so now I have the next one done. So you do this with each one, each layer. I click to accept it. Let's turn on the next one. Okay, so this is going to be the ear staples. I'm going to zoom out. And I can go ahead and I can move this into position because this goes over here. Command T. I usually start by shrinking it down and making sure that I don't distort it initially. And then at the very end, if I feel I need to massage it just a little bit so that it fits a little bit better, then I can go back in and I can, tweak it just a little bit. Now, if I wanted to use this one for the other side, I can do so. Because notice on his left ear, if I wanted stitches on that side too, I could do that. So let me finish that. And to do that, all I would have to do to create a mirror image of it would be to select it, and I could hit Command J to duplicate it, or click and drag it as I was about to do to create a new layer. Okay, I'm going to hit Command J. So now I have another one. And now what I can do is I can go under Edit, and I can go to Transform. And what I want to do when I transform it is down at the bottom, I can flip the horizontal. And now it's flipped the opposite way. And now I can put this up here, over here. Okay. And I can get it to fit there as well. So now he has stitches on both sides of his face, if that's what you so choose. Okay. And again, I can nudge it into position. And it actually looks pretty good, just like that. Okay. So just a few more to go, but then we have to colorize his hands. We have to merge the layers and do a few other things to get it to work and to finalize it, to be able to shift it over to the other one. So let's turn this one on. Let's zoom out, see what we have here. There we go. So now we're going to work with his forehead. Bring that down like so. Zoom back in. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. There we go. And hit Command T. Shrink it down a bit. There we go. So again, I'm holding down the Shift and the Option. Get it to match up, and then if I need it to futz with it, notice a little part of his hair is showing, so I'll just pull that up and stretch it just a tad until it fits, because I'm pretty sure that it fits for his eyes pretty well, and I'll just nudge it just a little bit. There we go. So I'm pulling it down just a tad here. And then I'll stretch it up again, just a little bit. Make sure that it all fits. I hit the return key, or you can click the accept button. Let's go ahead and add his hair. Move it into position. And I guess maybe I didn't have to stretch it at all, but Command T, if I want, I could go back and resize that a little bit, because the hair would cover up some of that. Again, put it in a position. Zoom in a little bit, see if I need to fiddle with it just a little bit. Make it a little bit larger. And that looks pretty good. Nudge it over just a little bit. accept that new size. And we have the bolts, and that's the last thing that we have to do for him, to composite everything. So I'll take these and I'll move them down, center them up, zoom in, Command T. Let's go ahead and shrink it down, like so. Move it over. Let's make it even a little bit smaller. And then we can zoom in. And again, I can stretch it out a little bit like so. I can stretch this out a little bit like so until it fits. And I'm satisfied with that. So he's almost done. So now what we need to do is we need to colorize his hands and any of the skin. Hands are really what we're most concerned about. I was unaware that the monster wore a watch or a wedding ring. But anyway, our monster, that's what he's going to have. So now what we need to do is we need to select the Frankenstein layer at the bottom. And I don't want to work directly on him because remember that will be a permanent change. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new layer on top. Excuse me. And now what I'm ready to do is I'm ready to colorize his hands. So there's a right way and a wrong way to colorize. To colorize the hands, what I want to do is I'm going to pick from over here and I want to use the eyedrop tool. And I'm going to pick a color from his forehead and maybe something a little bit more yellowish. There we go. I'm going to go back to the default colors and make black as the background and then click again, maybe pick, there we go. So that's a good one. Has kind of a yellow ochre color to it. Now, if I just come back to the paint tool, the paintbrush, and I select a paintbrush, let's see, no tool selected. Let me come back in here and let's look at what we have. I want just a big round brush. So just a big soft round brush. And I don't need it 3,000 pixels. I just need it kind of small. There we go. Now, if I start painting on this new layer, watch what happens. It's like painting a house, right? It's like painting a wall. It masks everything behind it. I want to show the wrinkles in his hand, you know, and allow all of those details to show through. So to do that, what you need to do is we need to switch from normal, and it wouldn't help you if I change the opacity. I mean, I could click on this like so, and I could come back with the opacity and I could, you know, lighten it, but that really isn't the result we want, because if I continue to paint on it, if you paint on that layer enough times, it will gradually, you'll lose the detail underneath. That's not what I want. So I want to leave it at 100% opaque. I'm going to undo a couple of times so I get back to my original nothing, so to speak. And now what I'm going to do, instead of normal, what I want to do is I want to go all the way down at the bottom here and select color. It's just one above luminosity. And now when I begin to paint, you'll notice that it leaves all those details, you know, the wrinkles in his hands and the crevices and that sort of thing, it leaves them intact. I can see right through it. And that's the look I'm going for. But one more thing that I want to do that will help me kind of paint within the lines is I need to make a selection of him. And the easiest way to do that is to hold down the Command key and to click on the little icon of him. And you'll notice that we see the marching ants around him. So now what we can do is we need to make sure that I still have that new layer selected. and make sure that it is set to color. And now I can come back in here and notice that I can paint out here all I like and nothing happens. I do want to be a little bit careful around his shirt. Painting right on top of his ring and his watch band is no biggie. If those change colors, it's not a problem. Now I can come back over here and we can paint this. And again, I'll paint and be a little bit careful around his shirt. But notice how it goes much quicker. And by working on a separate layer, I've kind of adhered to my principles of working with this in a non-destructive way. That if I decide or the client decides, you know what, I don't like that color. I want a different color. I want it darker. I want it whatever. You just turn that layer off, create a new layer and paint again. And it's very easy to make the selection and then you're set to go. So we have one more thing to do and then I will be done for today. And then we'll finish it up on Wednesday. Because we're moving ahead with the lessons at a pretty quick pace and you should feel pretty comfortable with everything and or most of the tools in Photoshop right now. We can do maybe one lesson a week now. And then there are some, towards the end of the semester, there's some videos that I'll be showing from lynda.com on various retouching and restoration techniques. I've already made them available on Canvas, and they should be available. Those videos have already been saved. I can show you how to access that on another day. So now what we need to do is I'm going to select all the layers. So I'll select the top one, hold down the Shift key, and select the bottom one. Now I could just hit Command E, and that collapses them all and say, I'm good, I'm done. But again, that results in a destructive way of working. I can't go back to the original. So what I prefer to do instead, and this is a little bit harder to remember, is that you hold down the Shift key, the Option key, the Command key, or the Control key on your PC. So that would be on the PC, it's Shift, Alt, Control. On the Mac, it's Shift, Option, Command, and then hit the E key. And you'll notice what it did. It left all those layers intact, but I can turn them off now. And I have a composite layer at the very top. That's the one that I want to drag over to our start file. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Move tool. And I'm hoping that everything will work nicely now. So I want to make sure that we click and drag and move it over to the backdrop. And then when the backdrop image pops up, then drag it down to the center. And there you have it. Now I can go ahead and it's above our background layer and I can position it in the area that I need it. And we're set to go. So that's the first lesson in compositing. On Wednesday, I'm going to cover the people here that are, let's see, and if we look at the end one, I'm going to bring them in here. And we also have a little bit of gymnastics to go through to create some special effects for the headstone here. And then that will be it. So those are some basic compositing techniques. Notice that the background here, while everything is colored, the background is predominantly kind of a duotone. It's black and blue. That's something to consider when you're working on your own posters, that it doesn't have to be full color. It could be a duotone. In some areas, it can be black and white in others, and that's what we have here. It can be full color. It can be entirely black and white. Maybe your title is in a different color or a different you've used different techniques for that. So that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to cover today. So I'm going to go back to the one that I've worked on. No, not that one. Well, we can look at that for a minute. But hopefully this gives you some insight as to how I worked with mine and the story behind mine. And I chose, I like the colors and the really gorgeous landscapes that exist in this area. So that's what I wanted to emphasize. And then with kind of a play on words, using that for the title, we are moving from LA to Morro Bay, a forward look, since I will be retiring. We're leaving everything else behind. So that's what I wanted to emphasize for my movie poster. Something for you to think about. We can go back to the backdrop layer here. This is the one that I was working on today, and we're all set. So if there aren't any questions, we're done for today. We have only, it only took maybe a half an hour. I kind of have to start stretching these out just a little bit. And something that I also recommend everyone doing is that if you are in an intermediate stage with your movie poster and you want feedback, this would be a good time to do that. So in the next couple of weeks before it's due, if you would like feedback before you turn it in, I welcome, handing over the screen to you and letting me see what you're working on, and I will make some suggestions. Okay. Don't be fearful. I'm not going to rag on you. It will be constructive, I hope, and I will also point out the strengths of your poster as well. And be prepared to talk about it a little bit. I want to hear your story about your movie poster. Okay. So if there aren't any questions, I'm going to say goodbye, and you guys are free to go, and we will finish this up on Wednesday. Okay. That's it. Bye-bye.